What kind of advice do you have to homeowners?
Practicing that preparedness. Starting the conversation now is always going to be a benefit to any association out there. And welcome to Recovery Report Live. I'm Dan Odess, President of GlobalPro, where we manage your risk to recovery, and we have managed more than $1 billion in recovery for business owners and community associations alike. Well, I'm here to report on a couple of really important things for the Florida policyholders. Recently, as of yesterday, the Senate approved a bill. Senate bill included a lot of anti-consumer language. It included a lot of reforms regarding that address some of the insurance reporting issues. It's claimed to help mitigate some of the expense or costs associated with insurance for policyholders. Oddly enough, as we continue to report, many of these reforms do little to mitigate the cost of actual insurance and mostly actually limit and mitigate your rights as a policyholder and entitlements to recoveries. So the proposed efforts by the legislator and the approvals in the Senate right now are poised to do more harm to you as a policyholder than certainly good. And I struggle as a policyholder advocate to give you anything but bad news as it relates to this bill. And hopefully, when the Senate meets with the House to negotiate on terms, some of the anti-consumer stuff gets wiped out of the bill and we can really focus on the bad actors in the insurance industry, whether it's the contractors that have taken advantage of policyholders and adding additional further restrictions there, or we can actually make this a fair market where suddenly profits from an insurance companies don't just poof and disappear because of this strange relationship between the operators of the local companies and these large companies that own them, and the lack of reporting. Because as we have seen, many of these insurance companies that do sell product here do rake in profits, but unfortunately are back at the legislator lobbying for rate increases. Someone like your agent telling you that they're going to adjust a claim, but they don't actually have a license for it. Some of these contractors are doing the same. And we are a proponent, we do fight this, and we are a proponent of legislation for those issues. And we do think that needs to be regulated. But disincentivizing or making it hard for a policyholder to retain competent counsel to deal with the underpayment or delays of claims, especially when you have consumer reporting that issues regarding fair settlements are on the rise, and you have insurance companies reporting massive profits in the first quarter, you kind of scratch your head and think, okay, where are we headed here? And is this really going to translate to savings on premiums? Or are we expecting massive rate increases? Another little thing that's not being talked about much is, what are we actually getting for our money when we are paying these premiums? Is it in fact actually better product or the same product that we're getting? But the reality is that when we start actually analyzing some of the stuff that we've seen more recently when we've seen these rate increases, and actually an inferior product for more money. So you're taking coverage away, you're raising our rates, you're limiting our access to advocates such as public adjusters or attorneys in the courts. You're taking away our attorneys' opportunities to obtain multipliers on their fees and some other restrictions. Where are you helping us as consumers? And I'm a homeowner, I'm a business owner, I buy insurance, I think insurance is very important. I don't think that all insurance companies nor their employees are out to get you. I think there's many people in the industry that, by the way, are very good friends of mine, are colleagues, if not relatives of mine, that I believe their hearts are in the right place, are trying to help policyholders. But I think there is a thirst for profit, and I definitely think that things are trending in such an anti-consumer direction that you're going to be left with very limited access to much of anything that's going to help you as a consumer, whether that's getting you a competitive product at a good and correct price. Not even a good price, let's take that away. At a correct price, just something that's really competitive, that's something that's attractive to you as a homeowner, that doesn't actually devalue your property. Because sometimes these restrictions, while they are put in place to help our insurance companies, they may be hurting you as property owners. You may not be even able to sell your property because the cost of insurance is going to be so high. I mean, look, FEMA and NFIP are looking to increased rates there. We're seeing massive increase in rates on the homeowners insurance side in the state of Florida. We're seeing rollback on consumer rights and this limitation to access to people that can actually help you in dealing with these complex situations. The more difficult it is for you to recover, the more complex the situation is, the more you're going to need someone to help you and advocate on your behalf to dealing with the situation. And that's certainly not an insurance agent that's not licensed to adjust a claim. And I find it ironic when a lot of brokers are out there, oh, we have claims professionals, things like that. And here we are restricting a consumer's access to licensed professionals. Licensed professionals, to get a public adjusting license, it's not easy. You got to get fingerprinted, background checks, testing. You have to have appointed, you have to have a supervisor through an apprentice program for months. You have to get bonding. You have to keep up with your continuing education requirements. You have an entire rules and regulations with the Department of Financial Services that you need to abide by. You need to do all of these things in order to help a policyholder in dealing with it. And your fees are restricted, your marketing is restricted, et cetera, et cetera. You're being constantly used in these situations to leverage rate increases and further restrictions, but your license is already substantially restricted and a lot of times because of contractors and other professionals that have done things they shouldn't. I mean, if you look at the fraud complaints of the Department of Financial Services, what I find ironic is most of them are insurance agents, not public adjusters or contractors. It's mostly insurance agents that I've seen in the past based on my review of these things. So it begs the questions, what are we doing to help consumers? What are we going to do to make this a fair market and making sure that we can continue to transact these things? Because again, I believe insurance is very important. I think most insurance companies are there to help policyholders. That's the whole point of this. In exchange for some premium, you're going to help them with their recovery and their loss. And a lot of adjusters I meet out there are there to do an honest work. Unfortunately, their work product is taken and sent to the insurance company, and decisions are made not at the property or those that are actually adjusting the claim in the field. It's being made by people in an office somewhere that most of you as policyholders will never meet, never know, never see, have no idea what they use to actually make those decisions and dealing with those things. But we do at GlobalPro, we have relationships and we talk to them and we ask the right questions. And you as consumers just don't know. But could you imagine not having access to someone like us or an attorney when your insurance company doesn't pay your claim properly? But could you imagine in a world that you don't have access to someone like us, but you're paying 30, 50, 100, thousands of percentages more for an inferior product? It just doesn't make sense. There needs to be some balance here. And I feel like we're continuing to trend. We're not starting this trend. We're continuing to trend, and certainly in a negative direction, I believe, for consumers. And again, I think that there is reason for concern, and I think there are some bad trends and bad apples, but there's no reason to penalize the entire market. There's no reason to penalize all policyholders. There's no reason for these extreme measures. It just doesn't make sense. And some of the evidence and information being used, quite frankly, is questionable. The ways in which it's reported, and believe me, I've studied statistics for many years while in engineering school, and I can tell you there's many different ways that you can manipulate the outcome of statistics and use them and interpret them in ways that may be to your advantage in certain situations like this to try to prove a point. And sometimes when you go that far to doing it, there's no return, and you just kind of have to keep on. It's kind of snowballs, just like any other lie. So we need to make sure that we're looking at the evidence and the information being presented, analyzing and understanding it, and not just accepting what it is that's being reported on or by the industry or by some media outlet, but actually look and educate yourself as to what is really going on here. And part of that education for board members and business owners is your fiduciary obligations to your business as well as to your fellow unit owners. In last week's episode, we had the first part of these fiduciary obligations we started to touch on following a continuing education class that we taught here to many board members as well as property managers to educate them about their obligations as policyholders or representatives in an association or a business to obtain insurance for your association, for your business, and in dealing with claims and losses and what you need to do to obviously avoid any issues of propriety or violation of your bylaws or your fiduciary obligations or laws. And again, encourage you all to, consult with your attorneys, start asking them questions about the claims process. As the rates go up and the products change and restrictions and access to experts and public adjusters and attorneys becomes more difficult, the onus is on you as board members and as business owners to know what you can or can't do. Because if you can't get access to the professionals that are doing this on a daily basis, that are tracking the trends, that are breaking down and analyzing the policies, then you as a fiduciary need to make sure that you're protecting the financial interest of your unit owners and your business. And again, it's a burden that you're going to have to shoulder, and you're going to need to understand a little bit more. So get familiar with your obligations. Is it still an emergency situation following the mitigation of your loss? Mitigation meaning you stop it from getting worse, you put protective safeguards in place, and then you stop. Why do you stop? Because your policy says so. Your policy says that you need to prove your damages. Your policy says that you need to give the insurance company access. You have a legal obligation to do that. You have a contractual obligation to do many different things under the duty in the event of a loss portion of your policy. You need to be familiar with each and every one of those things. You need to make sure that you're not in any way violating each and every one of those things or any one of them at all. Because if you do, your insurance company can delay, deny, and underpay your claim potentially. Why? Because you haven't done anything or haven't complied with your own obligations. You as a fiduciary, the board member, are responsible to make sure that your association is getting the recovery it's entitled to. Your property manager shares in that fiduciary obligation, but neither you as a board member or your property manager are licensed as adjusters. In fact, you probably have no background in insurance. And if you are an insurance agent, that doesn't mean you know how to adjust a claim. You're still a fiduciary to your fellow unit owners. You're still a fiduciary to your business. You need to make sure that your business continues to function. But how can you do all of that while you're worried about whether or not you're complying with an insurance policy that you probably don't even have? Have you asked for a certified copy of your policy? Do you have a copy on hand at a click of a button? Does your manager have the full and complete copy of your policy? Are you sure they do? Did they ask for the certified copy of the policy? I mentioned that now twice. Do you even know what that means? These are your obligations. These are the rights that the insurance legislator wants to restrict access to, right? He wants to restrict your access to and your right to competent representation. They want to restrict your access to competent representation. That's what these bills, they want to restrict our ability to market, to educate, to do these things. That's what they are proposing right now. As much as a business card will be restricted. So think about those things. The onus is going to fall more and more on your shoulders. Again, we're going to track these trends. U.S. policyholders in Florida need to be aware of these things. So all kinds of other things in the legislature regarding scheduling of payouts on roofing claims and way in which they're going to deal with those types of losses, whether it's windstorm and cutting off the deadlines at 2 years for regarding the statute of limitations. So again, analyze these things, understand these, and also understand your obligations as a fiduciary to your fellow unit owners and your business. And know that you need to be more competent when it comes to dealing with these claims. And we're going to continue to provide you that information here on the Recovery Report Live, as well as all of our social media, our website, downloadable formats. You're going to have how-to videos. We're producing all of this stuff to help you as policyholders. We want to make sure that you have the information you need. So continue to tune in here at the Recovery Report Live every Thursday at 11 o'clock. I want to thank everyone who tuned in this week. This is an important episode. It was a quick episode, but it's an important one. Last week was quick too, but also important because I want to be concise. I want to make sure that you have the information you need, and we're going to continue reporting on these important issues. Again, remember, this isn't all done yet up in the legislature, right? The Senate just approved this. We'll see what comes out when they meet with the House to agree on the actual law itself. I know FAPIA and many other organizations are continuing to lobby and to work with legislators to educate them about our perspective as policyholder advocates, what is right and wrong and what makes sense. We understand that there may be a need for rate increases for certain types of coverages and issues. There may be a need for increased restrictions and regulation on contractors that are acting as public adjusters, and perhaps there may have been a few attorneys that certainly went way too far and broke laws or did certain things. But that doesn't mean that all us policyholders need to pay for their mistakes. And we need some little more clarity on how these profits and premiums are being handled, because there's some conflicting information, those that we read in the news and those that we actually read in the studies, and some of it's not really making sense. So again, tune in every week. We're going to continue providing you, tracking these trends, making sure that you understand this information, whether it's here in Florida, throughout the country. We want to make sure that all policyholders have the information they need. So go ahead, like us, follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you have the latest information you need to be informed as a policyholder. Guys, the industry is changing. It's changing every day. So continue to tune in. Again, thank you to everyone. If you need us, you need help, shoot us an email, text, call us, whatever we can do. DM us on Instagram. We want to be here to help you. We want to be the source for information you need as policyholders. Again, we'll see you next week on the Recovery Report Live.